Patty?
What happened?
Brian, are you ready?
They found a polyp, so they cut them out. Now I know if I got some blood on board.
Well,
Now I
you
got
know,
picks roll.
it's gonna happen.
Black
I mean,
films.
you want every close game. And it's no
Good evening and welcome to tonight's Common Council meeting for January 10th, 2011. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Bernsler.
Here.
Riley.
Here.
Caller.
Here.
Anderson.
Present.
Hanson.
Present.
Jarvis. Sedlacek. Lottie.
Here.
Let the record show we have a quorum. Next item is the pledge. Please stand. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 is the acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting held December 13th, 2011. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second.
We have a first and a second to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held December 13th, 2011. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next item is the audience portion where the audience talks and we get to listen. And tonight we have a few people who signed up. We would ask you to stand and identify yourself. And if you use your outside voice, you can stand where you are. If you use your inside voice, you have to come up to the microphone. So however you want to do it is fine with us. First one is John Rory. Did I say that right, John? Okay, you have a mic right above you, so you're in good shape.
Should be good. Yeah, well, I must say it's been an interesting process to see how this chicken ordinance is coming about. I just want to thank everyone here that, for taking your time to go over it all and get informed like you are right now. So we'd like to hear a lot of yeses tonight just to get Plymouth reacquainted with its history on having chickens. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Next person that signed up is it Guy or Greg? Greg? Thank you, Greg.
I'm Greg Hildebrand, I live at 620 Western Avenue, across from John. I know that in the past the chickens were there and my kids used to play with them. He kept it very clean, as I know that would continue with anybody else. And also another thing, I petitioned for aldermen, and some of the people that John had, we kind of crossed paths, I guess, and some people out there. And that question kept coming up down Chaplain Court and Sunset and Short Street and down Western Avenue. That question would come up, and I never found a person that was negative towards that, people having chicken in the city of Plymouth. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg. And the next person is Sue Conan.
Yep.
Sue?
I am also a Plymouth resident, and I'm here tonight also to support the chicken ordinance. I have raised chickens most of my young life, and this past fall, I hatched eggs with my granddaughter as just an educational thing, and had returned them back to the farm where I had gotten the eggs. But it just reminded me that, chickens are part of our history. Our parents had them, our grandparents had them, and I think our grandchildren should be able to, join in with us and be able to raise them also. I think to have people have the option to eat healthier is very important, especially with all the things going on nowadays. So yes, I'm here to support it, and I hope we get more support with that too.
Thank you, Sue. Next person is Mitzi Schwartzberger. I did that terrible, didn't I?
It's fine. I had come before as an opponent, and I understand
It's important for neighbors to come together. I did have a support, I don't know if you have a secretary, but essentially what I just want to say is I understand everybody has their point, and I think it's important the neighborhoods come together. And I would ask for myself that if you could put an amendment into the portion of the licensure whereby you could say, if the building inspector receives written objection to the issuance of the license from 50% of or more of the notified parties, or from an adjacent property owner within 14 days of notification. Because I've stepped it off. My bedroom window is 25 feet from my property line. And it is possible that someone could have a chicken run or a chicken coop 25 feet from my open window. And I think that impacts me more directly than someone across the street. So what you have is provision for 50% of the people in a neighborhood to object and deny the permit, but you don't give any impact to the next door neighbor. If neighbors agree, then they would agree. So if everybody in your neighborhood is in agreement that this is something that should be done, there would be no objection. So I'm offering that as a compromise. So that would allow people to have chickens within the neighborhoods as a group, or if you have a group of people in a neighborhood who don't want chickens, that would also be possible. Because I've talked to my neighbors, I talked to, you want names? I talked to Kurt and Kathy Adams, I talked to Dwayne Anders, I talked to Cynthia Moss and Tim Moss and their son. They're not gonna put chickens in. But they don't really want neighbors to have chickens. They say, let the wise council take care of it. So all I'm saying is, you know, I think you could put a slight amendment into it, and that would probably resolve and keep neighborhoods happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Bill Anton. Bill?
Hi there. I live at 631 Reed Street. I've talked to a few of you. I thank you for that time. And I asked to speak today just so I could share some highlights as I first chose to get involved a little more vocally. I thought I could present a perspective because I had lived out in the country in the town of Linden at Sumac and Blueberry for a number of years, and I kept chickens, a small flock. But I also have some firsthand experience with urban chickens or city hens, where my son keeps 4 hens right in a very compact neighborhood, very old neighborhood, where you have 50-foot lots and things like that. And being that close to it, I know that there's not been issues with neighbors and with other concerns that have been shared. So after talking to a few of you, and I talked to the mayor as well, I didn't get the impression that some of this mechanical and these early issues on the chickens were unable to get over those anymore. But then I started to hear some other issues about what ifs. And I would just like to urge the folks to kind of look more focused on the issue and not as much as, well, what if we allow this and what if we allow that, then this could happen. I'd like you to consider the topic on its own merits. And Mitzi has a good point there. If you can't be friendly with your neighbor and get agreement, why would you go forward with something they can't agree with? But I want to advocate for it. I look upon it in a small way as a freedom that we could have and enjoy without impeding on our neighbor. God gave us the responsibility to look after animals, even to the point where Adam named them. And I'd like to also see a trend where maybe we don't overregulate and where the freedom is given a little more out to the public. And I think, as was mentioned, we don't want to overthink it. Because I think from the information I have, it's working in other communities. It's an added lifestyle and enhancement to our day-to-day activities, and we would hope that you would see it that way and vote appropriately. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill. Next person that signed up is Daryl Daniels. Darrell?
I signed up in case I wanted to speak, but not that I necessarily had something to say. But hearing what I've heard, I would like to say that we ourselves are renters in a multi-family dwelling. We happen to be neighbors of John Rory, who spoke first to you tonight. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here partly because I share, I think, property owner concerns, and that property owners should have the freedom to say no on their property, even if their tenants wanted to. And I say that as an ex-chicken raiser at a mission field in Africa. So I have an affection for chickens, but it's not like the American one where I grew up on a farm. I have no opposition to any responsible person doing anything which is not a moral detriment to anybody. And I understand you're not allowing roosters anyway, so just in case anybody doesn't know chickens, the noisy ones really are the roosters and not the hens. The hens cluck a lot, yeah, they make noises and squawks, but they're not like your neighbor's dog in terms of their audible output. That's all, and I don't presume to have anything wise to say. But I'm in favor of the allowing of this animal within the city limits.
Thank you, Darrell. And the last person signed up is Patrick. And Patrick, I forgot your last name and I can't read it, I'm sorry.
Patrick Riley.
Patrick Riley, thank you.
After hearing a very eloquent presentation in favor, I'd like to pass. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate everybody taking the time to come in and comment in the audience portion, whether it's this item or any other item. We do have a public hearing that's on the agenda next, and certainly you're able to speak at the public hearing as well. You're not restricted just to the 3-minute portion, which we just had. But the 3-minute portion is always there. Public hearings are extra items that aren't quite as normal as everything else. We thank you all for your time. Moving on, item 5. I declare a public hearing open and ordinance amending Section 13-1-104, signs permitted of the City of Plymouth zoning code to clarify sign area calculations. This is ordinance number 4 of 2012. First presentation, this was recommended by the Plan Commission on January 5th. I would ask maybe to start things off to have our building inspector start with the first public comment, and then the chair would recognize anybody who wants to talk on this particular public hearing. Is one of 2 tonight. So with that, I will recognize our building inspector. Pete?
Well, I would guess as council members, you've all received a copy of the draft ordinance. This is something I took from, pretty well from the city of Sheboygan Falls. We're running into situations where our signs are typically regulated by size, by square foot, square inch, and some sign submittals are computer generated where they actually have the ability to utilize the computer program and trace out each letter. So that's what they're utilizing for their square area. And some are hand submitted to where it's like, well, we're just gonna use the box around the word. And I think that's more of a plausible approach. I think that's more in the spirit of how the regulation is written, and I wanted something in writing to utilize as a tool so we could have something standard, so the sign companies are looking in our ordinance, they can see that this is the way the city of Plymouth sizes their signs, and we'll just design accordingly.
Good. Thank you very much, Pete. As I said, this is a public hearing open to anybody who wants to discuss this particular one, being the sign ordinance. Any other comments on it? Hearing no further comments, I declare the public hearing closed. The chair will entertain a motion to act on this ordinance. It is the first presentation. We don't have to act tonight. I would ask Pete, is there any reason why we shouldn't act on it to give more time for public input? What's your gut feeling on it? Do you have I mean,
No, it-
is it something that occurs a whole lot?
We aren't, I've got a submittal that's in the works right now that is pretty straightforward. Personally, I don't think you would cause any hardship if you were to just,
Okay.
move forward with it.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Poland,
Alderman Anderson.
I move we waive the first reading and vote on the motion. And vote on the ordinance.
Second that motion.
We have a first and a second to waive the second reading and go ahead and adopt the ordinance as read. With all ordinances, certainly we want to acknowledge that they're on view in the clerk's office and also on our website ahead of time and at any time. Any other comments? Clerk will call the roll.
Lonnie,
Yes.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Jarvis. Yes. Hanson.
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. I declare a public hearing now in order for public hearing item B, an ordinance creating section 13-1-144 of the zoning code of the city of Plymouth to allow the keeping of chickens as an accessory use in residential districts. This is ordinance number 2 of 2012, first presentation. I will remind everyone that the Plan Commission reviewed this on January 5th, and the motion to recommend resulted in a tie vote in the Plan Commission. I would ask to Alderman Sedlacek, who has brought the ordinance forward, I would give him the first opportunity to make comments, and then, of course, as the other public hearing is open to the audience and/or council members. Alderman Sedlacek.
I brought this up as the happenings of last summer with the Plan Commission, people that have approached me that are in favor of allowing chickens within the city limits. I personally probably will not have chickens in my yard, but I think that they are an animal of educational value. I believe they are an animal of nutritional value, and as a pet. I think that we have far many more issues arise and will continue to have many more issues with the problems with dogs than we will with chickens within the city limits. And that being my view on it, that's why I believe that we should allow for the use of, or to have chickens in yards.
Thank you, Alderman Sedlacek. Public hearing, and if anybody in the audience or the council wants to comment additionally beyond what you did, or add to or repeat what you did in the audience portion, certainly this is a time where you get to participate. Only in public hearings at this point of the council does the public participate. So that being the case, we certainly want to give you that opportunity. So if anybody wants to, raise your hand. State your name, please, so we have it for the record. Thank you.
Dan Mogat, I work in the city here, also live in the city. A few questions have come up about health issues with chickens in the yards. And
while unhealthy chickens can certainly transmit bacterial diseases to eggs and make the people that are eating the eggs ill, healthy chickens have healthy eggs. The avian flu concerns, we've just been through a bit of a endemic in that in the last year. It's really a wild bird problem, and that's just speaking to some of the health concerns that people have brought up related to poultry. I view this as a hobby. My wife and I will may or may not have a few hens in our spacious lawn, but it's going to be a small but enthusiastic hobbyist group. I believe with what I've read, well controlled and well designed. I very much approve of all the things that have been put into place to make sure it doesn't get to be a problem. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody else care to comment? Let's go over to you first, sir, and then we'll go back to Bill there.
Walter Taylor, agriculture education teacher at Plymouth High School and resident of Plymouth in an apartment complex at apartment 105, 357 Pleasant View Road behind Kmart. My personal view is that I hope all of you will consider this strongly for our residents to continue with this hobby project. And this past week I met with Community Education Department to design and develop a course to help address some of the health claim issues that could arise with the production of 5 chickens in a yard within the city. And this class will be offered and available for residents who wish to take this to learn more about the safety and well-being of the poultry that they'll be raising, and to learn more about poultry in general as they move forward to become a well-rounded agriculturalist in that area, to better serve them with their project. So I strongly encourage all of you to vote in favor of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Anton?
Yeah, Bill Anton again on Reed Street. One little point that I had forgotten to mention, and that is a bit of an economics boost. Now, you might chuckle at that and say, well, we end up with these eggs and what's the cost per dozen? But these are activities and hobbies that would be done with discretionary funds. And I would see a little boost to the local lumber company and many more trips to Fleet Farm. So there's actually a little bit of an economic upside to this, because if anybody's truly asked how much they've invested in their chickens, they probably wouldn't want to tell you. So I see that as a plus as well, and I'd like to see that kind of freedom, and let the folks go and invest in producing their own eggs, even if it's more costly than Quick Trip or whatever. So another thought.
Thank you. Any other comments? Alderperson Jarvis and then Alderman Hanson after that.
Thank you, Mayor. I have received a number of phone calls and emails and letters, both in favor and in opposition to this ordinance change, and I took all of them into consideration, but I think that the positives outweigh the negatives here, and I think it's just in general, it's a good opportunity for property owners in the city of Plymouth to have this choice. And I think that some of the ordinance allays some of the concerns and provides some protections to neighbors. The only thing I wanted to address was Ms. Schwarzenberger? Mrs. Schwarzenberger. Did you understand, could somebody explain to me how she wanted the amendment? I didn't quite get that, and I have it here, and I would like to know.
I think we just need to delay to that's with the license part.
Oh, okay, so I can't, this is not the right time for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I will touch base, I can touch base on that.
All right.
Or Attorney Fuller can, when we get to that ordinance, the companion one.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Hanson?
I contacted a couple of communities in the surrounding area. I contacted Sheboygan about their ordinance. They do not have any code. They do not have any regulations on it. as far as I talked to the gentleman there. So I'm not sure if they have chickens, and I didn't ask them that necessarily, but they don't really have a code or any regulations preventing it. Then I contacted Fond du Lac, and I thought Fond du Lac had a code, but they do not have a code. They're looking into the possibility of having a code. Then I contacted, through Fond du Lac, I contacted Oshkosh. And I spent some time talking with Robin Leslie. She's the principal planner for the city of Oshkosh. And she worked on it for a year, and she sent me an email on this, and it's quite an extensive email of their ordinance. They had an ordinance put in place July 1st last year, and they had quite a few people that were in discussion about having poultry there, and they have 3 permits. They have had 3 people put in progress on it. They treated the ordinance kind of the same as a dog, because chickens are a pet. They had 0 complaints they've had in it. One of the things they found out was one person did complain about chickens, but that person didn't have a permit. So they felt that was helpful, according to, and I may be misquoting her on it, but that helped alleviate the person that didn't have a permit, and they didn't have the correct facilities for that. So she was positive about that, comment on it. She also mentioned something about that the state registry, you have to register with the state, the Wisconsin Livestock Consortium, and every 3 years for disease, I believe it is. So that's something that if a person does have that, I know the veterinarian mentioned about it, I forgot your name, but mentioned something about that particular basis on it, so that aspect was taken care of on it. And then she sent me information that also included quite extensively about, they have a brochure they pass out to persons, proper raising chickens, handling of it. And they said Green Bay has had an ordinance in the past 5 years, and they've had 5 permits. So I'm thinking that this is something we should go with. It doesn't seem to be an issue. I didn't contact Green Bay to see if they had a problem with it. The taking care of it, they have a license, they do the first year on it, then after that, basically is renewed. They don't ask the neighbors to sign the petition or the complaint in the following year. So the information I got from them, it really didn't seem to be a big issue, didn't seem to be a big time issue with the city personnel. I would imagine initially getting an order would be a factor on it, like we've spent time with it on now. So I will be supporting this ordinance.
Thank you, Alderman Hanson. Alderman Lottie?
Thank you. I won't be voting for this ordinance for the simple reason is, where do you draw the line? I've had calls, some people are talking, if this goes through, they want to have goats. Now, people are allergic to cow's milk, they want to have goats. Now, I'm deciding, how do I go to these people and say, you can't have a goat? Well, they're going to say, well, you allow the chickens, that's a farm animal, why can't I have a goat? And there's some places they allow pigs. You know, I don't know where you draw the line on something like this. And as far as being healthy chickens, I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about drawing carnivorous animals into the area. You have people feeding cats. We have an ordinance that's against the law to feed cats, but they do it anyway. Nobody enforces it. I've had calls on the cats in the neighborhood. I have animals running through my backyard. I got fox. I got possums in the yard. I got deer going through my yard. You know, now, if I had chickens, what else would I get coming in the yard, you know? Would I have rats coming in from the fields behind me, the undeveloped lots? I don't know. So my concern is about that, and that's why I would vote no on this ordinance. Thank you.
Alderman Riley, and then go back to Alderman Hanson.
Well, I've seen and I've heard a lot of opposition to this, actually. And I've been asked about it wherever I go, work, you name it. A lot of people, a lot of tongue-in-cheek, oh, what are you gonna do with the chickens? I see the point, and I see a value of raising the birds. I don't really have an inherent disbelief in that. But I am worried where I live, very close to the township, a lot of open fields. We have tons of coyotes in this area. I know it as a hunter. Anyone who spends any time out in the fields, I've worked on various farms in the area my whole life. There's a part of me that says if you want to have chickens, there's a place for that, not in the city. But honestly, I've had very few people come up to me and say, you know, this is something we should have in the city of Plymouth. I'm kind of torn on it. I'm really disappointed in the Plan Commission that they sent it up here again without any direction. And that's what they're there for. So either way, we look like the good guy or the bad guy or what have you. But for the people that are in my district, District 2, the majority have said no. That kind of puts me in a tough position where I have no direction from the Plan Commission. And I think this initial group that will be applying for licenses, I think you'll be very diligent and do a great job. But as Alderman Lottie stated, and I do agree with this to some extent, where do you draw the line? What about the next group of people that want to apply? You know, maybe we don't know them. Maybe they don't care if they have to have 5 chickens or 10 chickens or not have them supervised. You know, are we opening Pandora's box? I don't know.
Thank you, Alderman Riley. Alderman Hanson.
One of the things that Oshkosh mentioned about the pens, they have to be predator free or protected so the predators cannot get into those.
What's that?
So that maybe weasel can't get in or those particular things. And then as far as the feed goes on it, they have a, what was that predator say? Thank you.
That's what the proposed.
Yes. And then they talked about the feed. The feed has to be, you know, if you're gonna leave feed sitting around and things like this, well, you're probably not a good manager on it because you're gonna lose money by having the feed around it. But I believe in the ordinance it says that that needs to be, you know, under containment, so you're not gonna have rodents, you know, come in that particular area would be my belief on it. And then, you know, I say take each issue as it comes. We're talking about the poultry at the particular time, and I'm not saying that maybe other issues won't come up on it, but we're talking about poultry now. If goats or if pigs or those particular things come up, we'll address them at that particular time. But, so I was on the fence for quite a long time, and getting this particular information on it, you know, puts me to be in favor of it.
Alderman Lottie.
Mr. Mayor, thank you again. I checked with our city clerk. I was thinking about making a motion to bring this to a referendum. It's an item, I'm wondering why he would do it. It's not that cost effective to do it to referendum on its own, but you could run it on the referendum in April if you wanted to do it to a referendum. But in order to do that, we'd have to have a special meeting of the council before, I think, the 24th of January. We'd have to have a special meeting in order to do the wording for the referendum, if it went to a referendum. So, and that's the only way I would do it on a referendum basis, is if it would go have a special meeting so we could do the wording, because I don't want to run a special referendum at a cost of the taxpayers just for this item. So that's one thing I looked at. And again, you know, it isn't, I can understand making the hen house rodent-proof and that, but the smell of the animals in there, the chickens or whatever, that draws the rodents to the area. It's not necessarily going to get in the hen house or in the coop and get the chickens, but it brings them into that area, and they wander in the area. Then they're after small dogs or whatever. If there's coyotes, they're going to get small dogs if they're out in the yard in them areas. You know, that's what it does. It draws them into the area. And necessarily they won't get in the coop, but it'll draw them to that area.
Thank you, Alderman Lottie. Alderman Fernsler.
Yeah, I think it's time we make a decision, one way or the other. I don't care about a referendum or anything else.
Right.
Why delay this any longer? Let's just bring it to a vote and get it taken care of.
Make a motion. Well,
This is a public
hearing.
hearing. Thank you, Alderman Fernsler. Anybody in the audience want to make any additional comments? Sir? Thank you.
31 East Eastman. I'm just a little concerned about the hypotheticals that are being brought up here. I don't know if Alderman Lottie has contacted communities that have this to find out if they're overrun with vermin, or if Alderman Riley has called to find out if they're overrun with coyotes. I mean, I think that if it had reached the proportion of a public health hazard, we would have known by now. But I believe that's not the case. And, you know, this idea of drawing the line, I mean, that's really a red herring, because you know very well you can nix goats and pigs irrespective of whether chickens have been accepted or not. I mean, I find it a little hard to believe that as legislators, the principle of hard cases making bad law is not present in your mind. That's all I have to say. I would hope that you would look at chickens for chicken's sake and approve this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? I would maybe ask our city attorney if there's any technical definitions that you would like to explain in the ordinance as this ordinance, not the accompanying one, because this is where the public hearing is, and maybe define a couple terms that you, maybe in the process of writing, have, why you put it in there.
Well, certainly I can direct the council to the definitions portion of the ordinance. Chicken pen is defined as enclosure in a hen house. The idea behind the definitions was to give everyone, those who have to enforce this ordinance as well as those who are interested in having chickens, an idea of what exactly is required. And under the hen houses section, I'm looking at paragraph E of the ordinance. There's even more detailed requirements as far as having all of the openings covered with predator and bird-proof wire of less than 1 inch openings. And so I think overall, the zoning ordinance does spell out in pretty good detail what exactly is required of an owner who wishes to have this sort of, the enclosure, the hen house, and then the chicken pen on their property. And certainly if there's questions about anything specific in the ordinance, I'd be happy to answer those questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Attorney Faber. Seeing no other comments, I declare the public hearing closed. Chair will entertain a motion on this particular ordinance.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Sizlacek.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 2 of 2012 as written.
Second.
We have a first and a second to approve the ordinance creating section 13-1-144 as written for approval. Discussion. Clerk will call the roll.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Fowler.
No.
Lottie.
No.
Hanson.
Yes.
Riley.
No.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Anderson.
No.
Fernsler.
Yes.
There's a tie vote.
I would make the same comment that I did make in the Plan Commission where we had a tie vote on the 5th. And I did vote no on the Plan Commission. I would, again, continue to vote no on this issue and make it a 4 yes and 5 no vote. We thank all you for participating. Moving on, item 6, ordinance. This is the companion ordinance. I guess I would, before I start, ask if we want to continue with 6A or at this point simply skip it.
Make a motion to delete 6A
Might be appropriate under the circumstance.
So move, Mayor.
Second.
I'll first introduce it and then we'll accept your motion in second. Item 6A, an ordinance creating section 7-1-19 of the City of Plymouth Code of General Ordinances regarding keeping of chickens licenses, number 3, first presentation. Now the chair will entertain the motion. Alderman Lottie.
I would make a motion to delete item number 6, ordinance number...
6A.
6A.
I'll second that.
ordinance number 3.
Ordinance number 3.
First and second, okay. Any discussion on the deletion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Clerk will call the roll.
Sedlacek,
No.
Lottie,
Yes.
Ernstler,
No.
Riley,
Yes, sorry.
Fowler,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hanson,
No.
Jarvis. No.
I will vote to delete the ordinance and remain consistent with the prior item 5B and vote yes on this particular one, so it's deleted. Moving on, item 6B, an ordinance amending section 2-4-16, Safety Committee of the Municipal Code of the City of Plymouth to delete the reference to the Adult Community Center Director, ordinance number 5, first presentation, recommended by the Safety Committee December 21st. Chair will entertain a motion.
I will move to waive the second reading and pass as written.
Second, Lottie.
We have a first and a second. I would ask Director Jurgens maybe to summarize this for us.
Nothing major here. As you know, the city has a safety committee made up of staff members. There's a reference to the Adult Community Center Director. Obviously, that's a position we no longer have, and so we're just deleting that reference in ordinance 2-4-16.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on, item 7, a discussion and action on claim against the city from Christine Helmer in the amount of $338.58. I would ask our city clerk to read Thomas Mann's opinion on this claim, please.
This is from Thomas Mann of Civmec, our liability insurance carrier. I am in receipt of the above claim that has been filed against the City of Plymouth in the amount of $338.58 for damages as a result of a tree falling on the claimant's house. It is my understanding that the claimant had contacted the city prior to this loss and requested that the city come out and cut down the tree. The claimant indicated to the city that this tree had ants and that this tree was rotting due to those ants. The city did go out and trim several dead branches. However, an argument can be made that they should have done more, and of such, it would be my recommendation that this claim be settled for the amount that the claimant has filed for her demand for.
Thank you. I would ask Attorney Feber, do you see any problem with taking Thomas Mann's opinion as a proper claim?
No, I don't see any problem with that, but I would qualify that with, I have the same information that you do, so I haven't done an independent analysis, but
Okay,
I think that that's an appropriate resolution.
okay, thank you. Chair will entertain a motion.
So move, Lottie, to accept the claim.
Second, Alder Anderson.
We have a first and a second to approve the claim in the amount of $338.58, correct? First and second, yes, okay. Open for discussion. Clerk will call the roll.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Fernsler,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lottie,
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 8, discussion and recommendation to staff regarding financing of the 2012 budgeted squad car purchases. I'll ask Director Jurgens to summarize that, and then we'll entertain a motion.
Your packet should include a city council communication form which outlines the financing of the squad cars. As you know, they're already part of the approved capital improvement plan, and we approved the ordering of those squad cars. Previously, for some time, the city had been using the Ford municipal financing to make lease payments on those squad cars. That rate has been around 6.5% with a $425 underwriting fee. Instead, we're looking at doing a traditional bank loan, which is just over 2% with Bank First National as the low quote on that. And it would be done just like a lease payment where there would be an annual payment, but we're saving money on the interest. So I'm looking for direction that you want to move to doing the bank loan, and that'll mean that we'll be coordinating resolutions and the bank paperwork, and expect that that would be approved at the January 31st council meeting.
I move that we approve the Bank First quote. Do you need me to say the amount, Patty, for the record?
The
or
2.05.
The 2.05 rate.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second to approve a Bank First rate at the point of 2.05 for the terms outlined in the January 3rd, 2012 letter to Director Yurgis. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Riley.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Lottie.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 9, approve the credit risk of and the loan for $2,633 to Weezer Custom Cabinetry under the WPPI Energy Shared Savings Program. I'd ask either Director Yurgis or Mr. McKinnon to summarize that for us, and then we'll entertain a motion. I'll let either one of you decide. John?
This loan is to help the customer provide funds to change out the lighting system, go to a more energy efficient lighting system. Result of that, the customer's energy bill will be reduced. And the theory of the program is with a reduction in the energy bill, you'll be able to take those savings and apply it towards the loan. Loan is a 2% interest loan issued by WPPI Energy. We're party to that loan. We share in the risk default in the event that the customer fails to pay back the loan. That risk is very nominal, but it is a risk and is identified each time we look at doing one of these loans. WPPI has done a credit risk analysis of it, and if we're supportive of going forward with this loan, would support that as well, agree to it as well. The loan is on the smaller threshold of what we would issue. The program issued a loan for anywhere from $2,500 up to $50,000 for a qualifying project. Mentioned the interest rate. The term of the loan is over 5 years, and there's more details I think I shared with you in the memorandum. So if there's some questions, I can answer that, or it's my recommendation to you to approve this particular loan.
Okay, thank you. The chair will entertain a motion so we can approve, and then we'll have discussion.
So moved. Alderman Riley.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Alderman Anderson, you had a question?
This is the same as the Piggly Wiggly,
John?
right?
Very much the same mechanism as the Piggly Wiggly loan.
That's what I thought when I read it.
Any other questions? Alderman Hanson.
Do we have any results from the Piggly Wiggly savings? Is that, have they had it for a year yet? Is it working? I guess that's my question. Not that I'm in favor of this, but I'm just.
It's less than a year, and it is working.
Okay.
Any other questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Hanson.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Lottie.
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 10, Finance and Personnel Committee. Item 10A, approve contract for administrative services for the 2012 Community Development Block Grant Rehabilitation Program. The chair will entertain a motion.
So move, Alder Hanson.
Second.
We have a first and a second to approve the CDBG program. Any discussion?
There needs to be a reference to MSA Professional Services.
Oh, MSA, yes. According to the vote in our Finance Committee meeting, we recommended MSA to be the party that administers it.
Good. Good
Just-
comment, thank you.
Just to comment, the city is in line to receive a $166,000 grant, housing grant, which will go toward our revolving loan fund program. And those funds will be available upon submission of a final application and final award. We previously submitted our name in the pot in June of 2011, and we were one of 22 communities randomly selected. We were at the low end, probably because we were at the end, or one of the last communities to get picked. But nonetheless, it is $166,000 that's available.
And I would think that we'll be getting information out on our website and through the newspaper as soon as final approval is granted, so that applicants will know the parameters and the process of applying. Clerk Huberty?
There will be a public hearing at the January 31st the Committee of the Whole meeting. There will be a notice being published, I believe, next Tuesday to the in the Plymouth Review, referring to that. This is a required, it is required of the whole process that there be a public hearing, and so that the public will be able to come and ask questions and gain information at that Committee of the Whole meeting. It'll be 7:30 here before the council meeting.
Thank you, Clerk Huberty. Any other comments? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Anderson.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Lottie.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Fowler.
No, yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on, item 11. I meant to, I'll back up a second on item 10. I meant to call on Chairman Hanson of the Personnel Finance Committee, and I simply glanced down the table and didn't do that properly. I apologize. I meant to.
Well covered without me.
We're in the flow there. Item 11, Public Work and Utility Committee. Item A, approve 2012 capital improvement budget for Plymouth Utilities with funds to come from utility reserves, general operating expenses. And I'll ask for a brief summary, and then I'll call on Chairperson Jarvis for a comment.
Yeah, it's in your packet. This is the capital improvement plan for Plymouth Utilities. Previously, when we approved the budget document, we approved the capital improvement outlay for the general fund. At the time, we didn't have a recommendation before the council related to the utility budget, and so that's why this is coming forward at this time. The committee did recommend $463,000 in projects. Most of that, actually, I think all of it is vehicles and equipment replacement in 2012, and the original projects total about $938,000, and the recommended budget is $463,000 for the projects listed in the spreadsheet.
Thank you. I'll call on Chairperson Jarvis for a comment and motion if she so chooses.
Yep, thank you. This is the first time this committee and the Public Utilities went through this exercise, and it's a very valuable exercise in long-term planning. It gives us a gauge on what we might expect over the next 5 years and beyond in terms of upcoming expenses, and how we can use that information to better plan for our budgeting process. We had just, we went through this during our committee meeting a couple of times, and we learned a lot about the utilities, and we also tried to provide some input on, based on our knowledge of how the Public Works conducts their longer range equipment purchases and things. But With that, I make a motion to approve the capital improvements budget for the Plymouth Utilities.
Second, Alder Lottie.
Put that down as LR.
I didn't know where it's going down there.
I would ask the first and second to agree to the 463, please, in the motion.
Yes, the
Okay,
463.
just to clarify, or the first and second and a half. Thank you. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Riley.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Lottie.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 12, discussion and approval on fund source for the one-time $10,000 payment to the Plymouth Intergenerational Coalition for additional program development at the Plymouth Adult Community Center. I'll ask Director Yurgis for a summary, and then we'll entertain a motion, and maybe I'll allow Alderman Hanson, since he's the chair of that committee, if he would want to make the motion, I would give him first choice on that. Director Yurgis.
In your packet was the one page from the agreement. It's page 3 of 8. It's just underneath responsibilities of the city. It outlines the $10,000 requirement. This is an unbudgeted project. So there's really two sources or two ways this can be paid. One from our contingency line item, or the second one being the senior center donation account. It would be my recommendation, the second one, that this comes from the senior center donation account to cover the initial $10,000 payment. That $10,000 will be split over 2 installments over the first 6 months, and I would have authority to approve disbursement of those funds.
Thank you, Director. Alderman Hanson, did you want to make a motion?
I'm not necessarily in charge of, I'm in charge of the Committee on Aging, but the funding is, the council has approval of. I'd move that we do take it from that fund, and that we give Director Yurgis the ability or the control over the payments on that.
The senior center donation.
Senior center donation, yes.
I would second that motion.
We have a first and a second to approve the one-time $10,000 payment to Plymouth Intergenerational Coalition as stated, with the supervision of Director Yurgis. Comments, Alderperson Jarvis.
Yes, I'm not sure that I'd be very happy if I was somebody that donated money to that designated account, knowing that it went to this without their consideration. Not sure if that's what the intention is behind this money, but I'm not sure if you had any input from that group, that the people that donated this money, but that's one of my concerns. And secondly, I'd like to point out that we went ahead and we had these discussions on whether to approve the agreement, and we looked at the decision without looking at where the money was going to come from. And I think that's been a bit of a pattern. And I think there's some other things that we get so caught up into whether we're going to make the decision that we don't look at the logistics and the details of what some of the consequences are of those decisions. So I'm not in favor of doing this.
Alderman Lottie?
No, I'm going to vote for this to come from those funds, because those funds were given to the senior center without a designation. They were for the senior center, and it's a fund that's going to be for the senior center, for operating or whatever they have to do at the senior center. We use some of the funds to buy new furniture at the senior center, and you use some of the funds over the years to do different things, and that's what the funds are there for. And I think that enhanced programming would be the optimum you want to use the funds for, to get the thing up and running and get everything running and coordinated together. And I think that's why I'm going to vote for yes for this.
Alderman Hanson?
One of the things that the Committee on Aging, we discussed it, we didn't discuss it totally, but Clerk Huberty was there, and it's gonna be about programs that are gonna be developed by the PIC for the senior center. And that would be, you know, probably good use of that funds for that particular basis. I'm not sure if a person designates the money when they donate it, if they can donate to a particular thing, I suppose they could, but I believe this is probably a good place to have it go towards programs. But I do agree, we should probably have ahead of time stating where the money's coming from, but I would support that aspect of it, and I can't speak for the committee members, but I know one person was, you know, and suggested the same in that, so.
Thank you. Clerk Huber, you want to make a comment?
Just for clarification, that when the estate that donated the money, the money came to the city of Plymouth to be used at the Plymouth Adult Community Center, or the Senior Center at the time that they did it, that's what it was called. But there was no specific designation that it was just for this or just for that. It was specifically just stated Senior Center.
I guess I would just add one other thing, that donation account includes that money, but it also includes other donations that the city received for the senior center. So to technically say that the $10,000 is coming from funding from any specific individual, I don't know that we can say that, because it's just been a pool of money that people have donated to, and that has accumulated in this pot of money. And so, you know, technically there's not one person that we could say that this is your money. It's just how we've done it.
Maybe a clarification for discussion here, or specifics. We have two accounts with funds in them. One was a specific donation, and then one was the accumulation of all of them?
Well, no, it's all been.
Or have you lumped them
It's all
out?
been consolidated into a designated adult community center donation account. All of the you know, there's records, yes, from our accountant that will show how much came from the estate and how much was from other ones, but it's all.
I guess that's what I'm getting at, is the estate was one number, and then there was a second account previously that had all of these miscellaneous money that came into it over 10 years, and.
But that was all combined into.
It's all combined into one,
On
okay.
paper, it's one account, you know.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
it may be in several spots, but it's, you know, it's
Okay.
in a
But
CD and it's in a
It
bank
came
account.
in different
and-
directions, I
Right,
guess,
but
was
it's
the point.
technically all combined as, it's not being accounted for. I mean, we can account for it separately, but, you know, you could say all of the expenditures from 2011 in the new center came out of the estate, and then there still would be $10,000 at least to cover this amount, if you wanted to look at it that way.
Okay.
Mhm.
Alderman Fowler?
Well, we seem to be caught up into the source of the funds, but what are the funds gonna do for the senior center? I think we need to see, if the PIC wants funding for programs, then tell us what the programs are and what the costs are. I am against it.
Alderman Fernsler, you didn't have a chance yet, then we'll go to Alderperson
We brought
Jarvis.
this up when we passed this thing out the last time we had it, and we talked about the $10,000 coming out of the funds. I don't know why we're sitting here saying, well, we didn't know this, or we didn't know that, or we should have done this. It was all talked about. It was all done 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, whenever it was we had the last meeting. Huh? Yes.
It was never discussed what the programs are. What are they? I mean, you can just throw $10,000 at PIC and say, here you go, you know, you want to start a pinochle tournament. Okay, well, let's put 2,000 to that, or, you know, it doesn't make sense. To just give them 10 grand.
Alderperson Jarvis.
Talk briefly about it. I think that everybody was caught up in the bigger decision of the shift in direction here, that sometimes these smaller details get lost. And I agree with Alder Fowler, and I believe that Alder Lottie in the past has been very diligent when the senior center would come in and ask for funds for purchase of desks or tables or things, and was very diligent on making sure that what the items were. So that's why I'm kind of I would think that you would want to be supportive of finding out exactly what they're going to spend the funds on.
Alderman Lottie.
When I was diligent on what they were spending funds on the senior center, that was being run by the city of Plymouth. Here we contracted this out, and they're asking for funds to generate more programs, to get the thing going in the right direction. Now, we contract with different people, we contract different things for the city. We contract our building inspector. Do we ask him, how much are you spending on running to inspect this building? How much are you gonna spend on inspecting that building? And what's your program? Do we have a program from this person we contract with? I don't know. I don't think so. But should we be setting a program for everything these people that we contract do? We contract for a specific amount. And it's up to that person to assure us that they're doing the projects that we want. If they come in, and we're gonna be getting a monthly report, if we're not getting a report, then you can say, hey, what's happening? Aren't the programs being run? Or what are you doing? You'll find out as the reports come in what's being done. But to say in the beginning, before you do it, you gotta lay out specifically every program you're gonna be doing, I think it's impossible.
These are for new programs.
Let me interject. This is on the agenda tonight for the approval of the fund source, and I would just urge the council to stick to
I
that,
think we
that
need
fund
to
source
stay on
discussion.
topic that the contract has been approved with this 10,000. It's a matter of, I believe, the question is, where do we take it out of? Contingency or the donation account? Am I not correct, Director Yurgis?
Correct.
And so that is the question, and I
that was
I
the
agree
motion.
we should stay on track here.
I mean, I guess the other comment I want to provide is a couple things. One is, A, it's in the agreement which was approved by the council, and I realize not everyone on the council was as supportive of the agreement, but this was what was approved by the council as a group. So the question of whether we have to pay the $10,000, from my perspective, that's really not a question because we've already agreed to do that. So the question is where is it coming from? And it's coming from one of two locations, which my recommendation is to come from the senior center donation account fund. The other thing I want to remind everybody, the reason why this $10,000 was put in there was at the request of PIC to get the program up and running. Originally, if we staffed this internally with city staff, with the plan I outlined, it was going to be $10,000 less. And so what was put in this as agreement is that we would include a one-time payment of $10,000 to bring it up essentially as to where PIC needed it to be for that first year, so that they can implement their program and their changes. And then after that 12 months, it goes, basically that $10,000 goes away, and for the next 6 months, they'll be compensated to a rate that is essentially equal to what it was going to cost us to run it in-house with our part-time people rather than the full-time director. So that's the background of why this $10,000 is out there.
Any other comments? Clerk Huberty, and then
Just for the record, I will state that our accountant has estimated the balance at the end of December of 2011 in the Plymouth Adult Community Center donation account is about $76,000. So,
not counting this 10.
right, not counting this
Okay,
10, just for
thank
the
you.
record.
Alderperson Jarvis.
I just wanted to address the whole reason that it's on the agenda tonight is that we did not approve what the source was at that meeting. And I think it's important to mention that that was a large discussion on a general topic, and we did not get into details like this. And I think we should do that at other meetings so then we don't have these kind of discussions again. And the other thing I'd like to address is that Alder Lottie, the intention of the building inspector and the garbage collection, we can determine and base and come up with a basis of how they are being paid per ton and per hour. This is much different. This is a service where there's different programs, and we could get specific information on those programs. So it's not, you can't make that comparison. So with that, thank you.
Any other comments? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Lottie,
Motion is to,
Take it from the donation account.
yes.
Sedlacek,
No.
Jarvis,
No.
Hanson,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 13, approve appointment of Mark Melcher to the Housing Authority to fill an unexpired term through March 29th, 2011. The mayor hereby appoints and asks the council to confirm. The chair will entertain a motion to confirm Mark Melcher.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 14, report on progress of 615 East Main Street. Pete, would you like to give us a little update?
I can't get it to work right now because it won't log me in.
Wing it.
We can do it either way.
Well, I'll just
You can talk to us. We'll let you talk.
talk to you guys. I had taken some photographs of 615 East Main, just simply because, you know, it was a big deal. You know, it was quite an undertaking that the city had gone through. And I've been working closely with John Putz, the current owner, and I did have some photos, some before and after, for some shock and awe for you folks. But anyway, about in August, John obtained the permit, and I maybe shared with a couple of you individually, but when he first took over the project, the Eagles helped him out with electricity. Neighbors were coming and helping him dig stuff out of the yard. And if you stop by today, there's actually grass in the backyard, you know, and everything's all squared away. And he is, I just, some trivia here, whatever, but he's taken out 3 additional loads of construction debris, and he's taken out bricks and stones and everything from the basement. But anyway, he's reconfigured several rooms, new electric throughout, new plumbing throughout, complete new insulation. It's a double wide solid brick. Well, it's not a solid brick, but it's a brick wall, so he's only got that much space. So he used a closed cell foam for that. And then, about yesterday, I'd say he's about 30% done drywalling. And I just wanted to pass on that he wanted to express his thanks to the city council for working with him and helping him get started on this. And he welcomes anyone here that if he's working on the properties, drives a red Chevy truck, to please stop by, check the place out. I'm anticipating maybe by Easter, they'll be done, completely done. It's really turning out nice. It's gonna be a nice addition to the city.
Very good report. Thank you, Pete. Item 15, approve 2011-12 tavern operator license previously approved by the chief. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the list as provided.
So moved, Alder Anderson.
Second, Alder Lottie.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 16, utility reports. Item A, managers report, December 2011. Item B, list of vouchers, November 2011. Authorized payment of November vouchers. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the list of vouchers and payment of same.
So moved, Alderman Riley. Second, Alderman Hanson.
We have a first and a second to approve the November 22 November vouchers and payment of same. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Lottie,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Riley,
Yes.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item C, income and balance sheets, November 2011. Item D, collection statement, November 2011. Item E, uncollectible accounts, December 2011, in the amount of $4,242.07. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the uncollectible accounts as stated.
So moved, Alderman Riley. Second, Alderman Hanson.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Sedlacek,
Yes.
Lottie,
Yes.
Fernsler. Riley.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 17, approve treasurer's report and authorize payment of December vouchers. I'll ask Clerk Huberty to do the treasurer's report, please, then I'll entertain a motion.
The treasurer's report for the month of December. For the city of Plymouth, the balance on November 30th was $16,419.38. Receipts, $5,754,117.14. Disbursements, $5,517,063.51. And a balance on December 31st of $253,473.01. For the Plymouth Utilities, the balance on November 30th was $79.86. Receipts, $3,561,993.65. Disbursements, $3,562,008.38. And their balance on December 31st is $65.13.
Thank you. The Chair will entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report and authorize payment of December vouchers.
So move, Alder Lottie.
Second, Alder Anderson.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Jarvis.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Lottie.
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Riley.
Yes.
Sedlacek.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Fernsler.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item 18, other business, building permit report for December 2011. 20 permits issued with an estimated total of $1,599,300. Item B, December management reports acknowledged for filing. Item C, minutes acknowledged for filing. Safety Committee, October 19. Community Television, November 14th. Downtown Revitalization Committee, December 1st. Committee on Aging, December 6th. Housing Authority, December 14th and January 4th. Mill Pond Committee, December 14th. Plan Commission, January 5. I would remind people that Clerk Huberty did mention that at our next COW meeting on January 31st, we would have a public hearing, and we want to note that for special interest. Item 19, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in